We need to start a mezcal club, but we need like 12 people to throw in like $50 each. We'll open a bunch of bottles and send out like 2-ounce samples to everybody. I think that's the way to do it, because otherwise, to try all the Cinco's and Tito's I have, there's going to cost you over $1,000.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm in. Thanks for tuning in to episode 15 of the Sultan of Slow Drip. I'm your host, the Sultan of Slow Drip, joined by my buddy Adam Kamin of Off Premise. Do you want to tell them a little bit about Off Premise? I know this is your second time on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
I am the owner of a small boutique wine, whiskey, and currently expanding our agave mezcal tequila selection in Lincoln Park. We specialize in a lot of organic, if not biodynamic, minimum additive spirits, and basically everything that's done in the right way.
All right, cool. So we're gonna try some mezcal on camera, but before we do that, I want you to tell me a little bit about mezcal. I know you, off camera you say like, "Hey, I'm not a mezcal expert or anything like that," but
right. I come from a whiskey background,
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to learn about the category myself. It's certainly taken over a lot of my shelf space.
Mm-hmm. What was like the kind of impetus for you just get into mezcal?
Money. You guys are all drinking a lot more, and everybody's branching off of bourbon right now into spirits that have a lot of character, and just a lot of variety within the category. So, I mean, I want to preface this by saying I'm not a mezcal expert. I'm still learning about myself, but the basic definition is it's made from agave.
Okay.
There's certain DOs within Mexico where it can be made. Outside of those DOs, it's called raicilla. And then there's categories within mezcal. For example, tequila is a mezcal, but it must be made from the blue Weber agave.
Okay. So all tequilas are mezcals?
All tequilas are mezcals.
Okay, but not all mezcals are tequilas.
Exactly, you nailed it.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, in short, there's dozens upon dozens of different agaves that you can use to make mezcal. The blue Weber being the one that makes tequila, but it has to be made within the tequila region.
Okay, so it's like champagne almost.
Exactly.
It's like made with the specific agave as opposed to the specific grape, and then from a specific region.
You nailed it.
Okay. Will you get thrown in jail if you call something like tequila and it's not from the tequila region?
I hope not. I'm not sure who's listening. Because
I hear that happens.
But yeah, there's a ruling body called the CRT that really regulates all of the agave production. So there's consequences.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Gotcha.
Jail.
You might get shaken down.
Yeah. Mexico's interesting. There's always ways to get out of jail, as we've seen.
You can pay them with tequila, right?
So, I mean, the thing about agave is that agave can't be harvested like corn or any other commodity crop, right? You can't. It doesn't have a season. When it's ready to be harvested, it shoots something called a quiote up in the air.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a death sprout. So it takes all its sugars, brings them into itself, and shoots out this stalk. It goes like 10 feet up and then shoots seeds all over the place.
Yeah.
10 feet on a blue Weber agave, right? There's agaves that are this small. There's agaves that are this big. Some take 80 years. Some take months. But that's when their sugars are maximized, and that's when you can harvest them.
Before the actual seeds?
When it shoots up that stalk. Yeah, that's when it's ready. And the agave will tell you when it's ready to be harvested, and that's when it does it.
That's awesome. So then once you do that agave plant is done, right?
It's
like you're
done.
uprooting it, it's gone.
You take that, you knock off the things that come outside. Again, I'm not an expert, so whatever those things are called, roast it, and then what's interesting about the mezcal industry is every farmer, every mezcalero has different distillation methods, different fermentation methods, different stills, and also a variety of agaves. It could be single agaves, blends of agaves, and sometimes they're fermented in leather, concrete, you name it, and sometimes the stills are copper, column stills, tree trunks we've seen. So everything is very unique to the mezcalero.
Do you have any differences between these these mezcals? These are all mezcals?
These are all mezcals.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. And these are all going to be blends. I just went ahead and grabbed some randomly.
Okay.
2 of which I haven't tried.
Okay, awesome.
Just because I'd love to open these up at the shop.
Yeah.
But this is bottle 86 of 127. So these are all limited production here.
Nice.
Bottle 307 of 355. And then this dude, this is a regular product that's out here It's released regularly. A lot of the information on the back here. These ones are technically not mezcal, though. They're referred to as an agave spirit only because of the fact that they're shipped up here to CH Distillery in Chicago and bottled in the United States. If they were bottled in Mexico, they would be a mezcal.
So when it's shipped up here, is it just shipped up here as like a liquid and then it's bottled here?
Exactly, yeah.
So, okay.
In totes.
Okay, so everything is pretty much done in the standard mezcal method.
Yep.
The only difference is the bottling.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. And then another question too, because I'm pretty new to mezcal myself.
Mm-hmm.
What am I looking for? Is it like what's that signifier of quality in a mezcal, or is it like different? For
Man, I would say flavor and uniqueness.
Like, are you looking for like a smokiness at all? Like,
sometimes
because it's a smoked product, right?
Sometimes.
Okay.
So sometimes they're roasted underground with charcoal or woods, and that will impart a smoky flavor on there. A lot of the cocktail driven brands make sure that they put that smoke on there because people assume that mezcal has to be smoky. But we could give these a try here.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, and I would follow your lead in terms of what do you think we should be trying first.
Right. This one definitely is made with espadine, which is the easiest to harvest.
Gotcha.
So this one grows more readily than all the rest of them. So you're going to see a lot of espadine, another one called baril. What are we getting off it? There's definitely a little smoke inside there, right?
Yeah, I definitely get some smoke. I get like almost like a cedar, like a humidor type vibe.
Nice.
Good
job.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. There's also like a salinity on the nose that you just get with I find a lot with tequila. It has a saline nose, like it smells like salt water almost.
Yeah, and the palate confirms that too. Yeah, there's certainly some roasted quality inside there.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's pretty hot on the front of my palate,
Yeah, we're looking at 100 proof.
100 proof. Okay, yeah. So that's a little bit hotter. Is that so do you typically get 80 proof is the standard, and this would be overproofed, or?
You see ones that are really high proof too. So unlike bourbon, where the first part of distillation is called the heads, and within there's some bad alcohols. A lot of the reason why the FDA started regulating it because some of these alcohols can make you go blind or they get you sick. But that comes from the grain, right?
Okay.
In agave, there's puntas. So that first part off the still is going to have a lot of the stuff that gets distilled first or is able to evaporate first through the distillation process. And a lot of times that's going to be the highest proof part of it.
Okay.
As you let it run, and then that back part of it, the tails, helps dilute it a little bit.
Gotcha. So in those alcohols that are more kind of hazardous to your health, are they more volatile, so they just kind of evaporate easier?
Exactly, yep.
Okay.
Yep. So in the bourbon industry, we're always removing the heads, and then we go to the hearts. And the tails can be used to dilute the product, but generally, are not used. And
you might not know the answer to this, but is that something that's just kind of thrown into the atmosphere, or is they actually turn that into turpentine or something, or paint remover or whatever? Because I imagine that's what it is,
yeah,
right?
I mean, you dispose it, for sure, at least in the bourbon industry.
Okay. It comes out as a liquid?
It comes out in it's the first cut. So
gotcha.
You go ahead, let it run, and then you pull that. And
midstream.
Then you exactly.
I gotcha. Exactly. It's like when you go to the doctor and they're like, midstream.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, yes, sir. Midstream. Well, cheers.
Cheers, yeah. We didn't... I also get a little bit of pipe tobacco from that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really nice. It actually, after sitting just a little bit in the cup, it softened up a little bit. That first initial taste that I had was pretty aggressive, and now I'm able to kind of get through it. I mean, probably also my tongue is getting more acclimated to it as well.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because now I can get this nice spearmint going across my tongue. It's very minty.
Some herbs there, huh?
It's really, really nice.
All right, let's see what we're doing here now. Cinco Sentidos. We carry a lot of this product here. This one's also going to be espadine, blended with an additional agave. Forgive me, Capon.
Okay.
Whereas this one is Sierra Negra. So there are two different agaves that are blended together. Again, espadine being the easiest to harvest, or the one that is ready to be harvested quicker than most. And again, the rarity in a lot of these mezcals comes from just waiting for the agave to present itself to be in the proper position to be harvested, right? And then, some of these agaves can be big as a person. Other ones might be as small as a basketball, right? So the price is a reflection of how difficult or how long it takes to harvest the agave.
Gotcha. It's interesting too. I almost got my glasses mixed up here because like they're so similar looking, but they smell so different that I was able to tell right away. Like, oh, I was gonna pick up the wrong glass, and I smelled, and I was like, wait a minute.
Hands down.
Yeah, hands down. This is quite different aroma.
Yeah, you almost get a. I guess I mean this in the best possible way, but like a cellar.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a cellar.
Like a must.
Yeah.
But not a corked, not like corked, but wine. But
it's like ambergris or something. Like really, like kind of. Like not full vanilla, but just a little bit kind of like woody vanilla.
Yep, and then again, those herbs really start expressing themselves on the nose.
I also get cinnamon.
There we go.
Big time cinnamon.
I like that.
Big time cinnamon.
And then a lot of this is just imparted, one, from the agave, but also the fermentation method, the production method, the still, what's being stripped out of it, what's remaining, how the agave is being roasted. So these particular ones, you could tell that they're not too smoky, right? Like
not overly smoky. This one actually is like not very smoky on the nose, but on the palate, the smoke really comes through.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's really nice though.
It's very good.
Yeah, and there's like no minty like. Actually, I'm not saying there definitely is some mintiness to it, but it's just a different level of coverage on my tongue. It's much more focused, actually.
Yeah, super happy to be here because I rarely get to open these things.
That's awesome, yeah.
We'll run them just for you guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, this is...
Hopefully production can get a little bit over here, too.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like... Because I'm super new and just green to Mezcal, so I'm trying to just figure out, like, what am I even looking for? Because the flavor... It's like drinking sake almost. Like, if you are just used to drinking your typical American spirits and then you have sake or you have, like, shochu or something... It's got this flavor component that's just completely out of left field, particularly with sake. Like, it tastes like bananas to me, Like, sake has this real banana flavor that you just don't get from anything else. And this has this minty, like, just very focused quality that it's almost like pine.
I think the difficulty with learning about Mezcal for most people, the average person, is simply the barrier of entry is price. It's super expensive, especially the ones that are being done in the right way because they make sure that all of the money goes back to the mezcaleros.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so they're really socially conscious on a lot of these brands here, just so that these guys can continue to make the product that we enjoy. But yeah, these products generally retail between $100 to $150.
Wow. Okay.
And and let's talk about dozens of different agaves. With all these different production methods, distillation methods, fermentation methods, it's very similar to wine.
Yeah.
In that you can't get to know it just by having one type, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to cost you a lot of money to try them all.
So when you open these guys, how are they like good? They're very stable. Like, will you notice any sort of fade once you open it? Because like once you open a wine, it's gone. But I know this is like it's a spirit, so it's different.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it depends on who you're hanging out with. Because in my house, when we open these are gone.
They just disappear?
Yeah, they just evaporate.
Okay. And then also, in terms of comparing this to something that people might be more familiar with, what would you say the drinking difference would be compared to like a Patron, type? That's a tequila, right?
You got it. Yeah. I mean, so the Blue Weber is pretty distinct. And also just the roasting method, right? Mm-hmm. So when we do taste the smoke inside here, a lot of that's largely due to the lighting charcoals and burying it underground.
Okay,
and that's kind of the roasting.
So it's like
method.
Smoldered almost.
Exactly, yeah. In some of these, right? Like I said, they're all different, and we can't say that mezcal is smoky. Some mezcals are smoky. Whereas tequila, it's generally pretty regulated, and the product that you're getting. A lot of it simply due to it being made from the Blue Weber agave.
Okay. Because I do notice, like, one thing that I taste, like, particularly with tequila, is it just kind of, like, finishes a little, like, with fewer flavors going on. Or at least, like, I'm not going to blanketly say tequila, but, like, when I had Patron.
Got it.
Like, they're just fewer, like, smoky notes, like, minty notes. It was more so, like, combined into a single note that was, like, pleasant.
So with tequila, you could call it 100% agave,
Yeah.
but legally the CRT allows you to add 1% flavoring.
Okay.
So a lot of your products like Clase Azul or Don Julio, don't quote me on all these.
Yeah.
You know, you could add wood tannins or you could add syrups to them and still call it 100% agave. Now, a lot of these additives are put in addition to the tequila because they use something called a diffuser. And earlier when I mentioned that the agave will let you know when it's ready because it shoots up that quiote.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys harvest tequila like it is a commodity crop like corn.
So they don't let it get to the point.
They just grab it, and then they use something called diffuser, which really just pushes every single piece of liquid out of there.
Gotcha. So they'll get like more of the kind of harshness out of it.
Exactly. You know, maybe some chlorophyll inside there, and then they have to go ahead and manipulate on the back end to get rid of those characteristics.
Gotcha.
Because quite simply, the agave didn't have all its sugars ready to go.
Right. They just kind of churned it. It's almost that you get the same thing with coffee too, where it's like some of the kind of cheaper coffees are picked where the bean is still, or the cherry is still green, and you need that cherry to be ripe red before you pick it because that's like maximal sugar production.
Got it.
It's indicative of what that seed is actually going to have in it in terms of sugars.
Yeah, I'm sure it translates.
Yeah, it's all the same thing. Like when you look at these things, you know.
I mean, so what we try to do, and I find that a lot of our mezcals too, is that you just want the truest expression of one, the fruit, and two, what the mezcalero is imparting on there, and that's going to be through his cooking methods, through his distillation methods, through his fermentation methods.
Wow. I'm probably giving like the audience like this huge ASMR feeling right now of me just rubbing my lips together, but it's like you can taste it on your lips. It's like it's very potent.
Yeah, and I think that's what appeals to the bourbon drinkers particularly. We start seeing them move into rum, we see them move into agave. A lot of it is because the bourbon is just so expensive right now as well. And there's not a lot of variety. Once you've drank bourbon, especially the new money coming into bourbon, it's hard to get that stuff out there that everybody's looking for. Mezcal, and there is a agave shortage, but you can certainly find a lot of variance and diversity within the category, whereas bourbon, it's just a lot of grain, you know, and wood.
Is there a shortage because of drought, or is there just like a production and desire mismatch?
It's a demand. Demand is huge,
Gotcha.
and that's just on agave in general, particularly tequila, right? You know, you see every celebrity getting into the category.
Yeah, doesn't The Rock have a agave product now?
Jenner has one. I mean, I know Clooney sold his for $1 billion or so. You know, it's a hot category. Everybody wants one. I think LeBron James has one too, if I'm not mistaken. But that's all tequila. Now, these right here, a lot of it's wild harvested, right? So you have to forage this stuff. You can't grow it. I mean, well, the Espadin and Baril you can. Like, you can grow like a cash crop, right? But some of this stuff is wild foraged. And, again, leads to the rarity of it, leads to difficulty, and then, again, leads to
repeatability.
The price.
Yeah, the price. And holy smokes.
Yeah, it's hard to find some consistency. There's a few brands that do it. This is the way we do it, and this is the agave we use, and here's our production method. But, you know, some of these guys are just doing it out in the woods. And, you know, let's see if this works. They've been doing it so long, and they're not particularly looking for consistency. They may be looking for the best way for the agave to express itself based on the materials that you have to produce it.
And when they're foraging these, I'm trying to get a mental picture. Is this like growing just like in a kind of desert environment, or is it like in a treed forest? Or is it grows everywhere?
Not everywhere, but within the climate. You know, you can find it on mountainsides. You can find it in desert for sure. And when you're driving down the street and you know down the highway, you see the agave growing, but again, it's mostly Blue Weber or Espadin.
Because I'm just trying to imagine. I know like altitude affects coffee a lot, and I'm just like trying to figure, okay, these different environments where you might find your agave, is that going to play a part in? I'm guessing it's yes, because plants. You know,
I mean, Highland tequila is pretty sought after.
Yeah.
Tequila Ocho, Fortaleza Lot 100. These are super desirable areas in which the agave is grown. But again, I can't speak to all this and where it all comes from.
I was going to say, like, I thought you didn't know anything about Mezcal. He's like just dropping out, like, Highland.
You walk into my shop, and we have about 60 different mezcals, and I've tried them for sure. And there's some I haven't tried. I just buy based on rarity. You know, bottle 1 of 40, right?
Okay.
I'd love to open them with you guys. We need to start a Mezcal club, but we need like 12 people to throw in like $50 each. We'll open a bunch of bottles and send out like 2-ounce samples to everybody. I think that's the way to do it, because otherwise, to try all the Cinco Sentidos I have, there's going to cost you over $1,000.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm in.
All right.
Yeah, I'm
done.
in. Like, I'm in.
All right, let's find some more people then.
We just like $50 a month dues or whatever. Like, we just turn it into a club.
Trade the coffee for it.
That we won't tell anyone about because it's probably not.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't record this.
We'll do it here.
We're always discussing illegal things, aren't we?
Is that right?
I think I mentioned selling ammo last time.
Uh-oh.
We were together.
Uh-oh.
Which I guess you can't do.
Let's see here. All right. So this one, Quiche de Mojo.
Whoa.
This is bottle 86 of 129. Right off the bat,
Whoa.
right? That one's so different from everything else.
Much more vegetal, too.
Mm-hmm. So the first two we've been focused on was Espadín. Like I said, it's the most common. It's what you're going to find in most mezcals that are readily available. And you're going to see it in all mezcals that you know are generally used for well products or cocktail-driven products in bars. When you start moving to Cinco Sentidos, you start moving into, or outside of Espadín and Barril, you start moving into the sipping mezcals. And I think this one right here particularly shows the variants that you could find within mezcal. And this is why you're sipping it, not, you know, put it in your margarita. I'm sure it's great, but I think you're going to lose a lot of the characteristics, the minutia that I'm sure you're going to find right here.
Yeah, this might sound weird, but I wouldn't mind smelling like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this smells like a cologne almost. Like,
yeah, it's really hard to express to your audience how different these are.
Yeah, it's so different. I wish I could put this into words, but like, there's this really fluffy but manly, woody. Like, the only thing I can think about is actually like a scenery. Like, this smells like I'm on the set of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like, it smells like very woody, very gritty, but there's like this kind of fluffy, airy lightness to it that's almost like a marshmallow.
Yeah, I'm getting some like sandalwood inside
there. Like, I'm getting some leather from it, like fresh leather.
You know, and if I were better prepared for this episode, I'd have all the details on how these were made. I went ahead and randomly grabbed
this
3
was
bottles,
perfect.
but making sure one did not have Espadín inside there, just to showcase.
Yeah. No, just the variation on the aroma of these has been really incredible. There's just something that I'm trying to really reach for, which is, it's very rare that I'm at a loss for like what to describe. And that's one thing that I'm finding interesting about these mezcals is they have their own like just kind of unique flavor. Like there's obviously overlap, you know, that you get the sandalwood, the tobacco, all that stuff, but then they have their own little thing that they're doing where honestly they could be a flavor note in and of itself because it's just so different from everything else.
I see what you're saying, yeah. And I mean, it translates to wine drinkers, right? If wine drinkers were to drink high proof, you know, we're talking the difference between a Syrah and a Chardonnay. Right?
Yeah,
And then, you know, when we start moving into...
They just all look the same. It's like, imagine that, right?
It's all clear. You know, we do have some aged ones. I have some, like, 9-year Fidencio that Single Cask Nation put out, aged. But I'm not really... I mean, same with tequila. Like, I know what barrel tastes like. I've drank enough whiskey in my life where I know what the wood tastes like. Right. When I'm dealing with agave spirits, I want to taste the fruit. You know, and that's not to say that sometimes the addition of a little wood, like a reposado, it makes it more interesting for sure in some cases. But when you start getting into the extra anejos, I think you really lose all these characteristics that we're picking up right now. And I think that's important to recognize that the Blanco really, really shows you the truest expression of the agave. And I think that these mezcaleros, too, make it in such a way where that's what they're showcasing here.
So the Blanco sees no barrel.
No barrel at all.
Okay, which is crazy because it's like super woody.
Right.
It's like very like sandalwood, cedar.
Absolutely. And you know, but that's not to say that it wasn't fermented in wood.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So I'm not. It's
not saying aged.
It's not aged.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
And, again, if I was better prepared, I could tell you how it was fermented. You know, some of these guys, the OGs, if you will, ferment in leather, and it's almost like they make these tripods and they ferment inside there, and that was due because they were the moonshiners of Mexico, right? You could dump that, fold it up, and run.
Right.
You can't do that with a barrel.
Right. That's hilarious. You just throw it over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It almost looks like those camping chairs.
Yeah.
And then you ferment it within that.
Man, I wish that the people listening to this could really just feel the difference of the aroma, the mouthfeel, the flavor. Like they're different completely.
You can. 1128 West Armitage.
There we go.
Off premise.
Yeah. It's just like you were saying. Like if you had Chardonnay, Syrah, but they were all the same color. That's the difference.
Yeah. But I think it's a lot easier to identify differences in mezcal than it is wine.
I would go along with that.
I mean, they're so drastic.
They're so drastically different. Mm-hmm. Like this is blowing my mind. Like I have very little experience with mezcal, but I'm just kind of blown away by how.
Right. And again, I'm not getting any smoke in this.
One thing I actually do get a little bit of like a jerky type thing.
A little meat.
Yeah, a little bit of meat, like smoked, like dried meat.
I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the ones I was going to bring was a pechuga de mole. So the celebration mezcals, what they'll do is they'll hang a chicken breast or a turkey breast. We're seeing lamb breast being done right now over the still, and it gets fermented through the meat. And these are generally referred to as celebration mezcals, right? So pechuga is going to be the term. If you see a pechuga, that means that there was a piece of meat generally distilled with it. So I have one called pechuga de mole, and they actually take the chicken and the mole and throw it into the distillate and then ferment it. It's one of those ones. It's fun to try.
Is it cooked chicken or raw chicken?
I mean, it gets cooked.
It gets cooked.
It gets cooked. Yeah.
Dang.
But you taste it like when you drink this mezcal. It tastes like a meal because you could taste the dark flavors from that mole, that robustness. It's not one that I would have 2 or 3 glasses of.
Yeah.
But it's one to have when you have a buddy come over and here, try this. It's so different because the mole's inside there. So a lot of the celebration mezcals, maybe holiday in origin, could have the addition of spices and whatnot inside there. There is a local Chicago company that has a part in a mezcal here, and one of their pechugas and celebration mezcals, they go ahead and distill through the beans.
Dang.
Which we should talk about that.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just like, I got the juices are flowing right now, and just hearing how many analogs there are to the coffee world too. It's like, man, like there's. Because what you were describing with like the difference between like seeing barrel or barrel aging and just having it blanco is very similar to the discussion of like light and dark roasting.
Right.
Because the roast is the coffee version of seeing barrel in a way, where it's like introducing that smokier, more like tannic aspect to it.
I know a heavy roast is like if I come from a culinary background, so if I'm cooking for a banquet of 100 people, I'm going to go ahead and make that steak medium well.
Right.
Medium. I wanted to feel that.
Medium. You just want
everybody gets the same thing.
Right.
So with a heavy roast coffee, I'm sure it covers up a lot of the characteristics that more of a connoisseur is looking for. But you don't have to worry about people sending it back.
Exactly. Yeah, because it like
to be cooked more.
Yeah. They're like, hey, could you just microwave it or something, right?
So it's a Starbucks, right? The Starbucks of coffee is an over roast, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. And even now, still like the change in the aroma over time, like very short period of time, changed like so much.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a little oxidation. I had to open up a little bit. These are all fresh cracks here too. Again, I'm super happy to open these things. We need to get some people together.
Yeah.
Just so we can start this club.
I'm about that. I'm really about that.
All right, we need 10 more people.
So, question of the day. I want you to ask our audience one question. If it's related to mezcal, that would be ideal, but it doesn't have to be. So yeah, you'll just propose that.
I suppose my question to the audience and to all the new bourbon drinkers out there.
Bourbon.
I want you to ask yourself, and this particularly due to COVID, right? We had a lot of people that started pickling or baking, or everybody developed a hobby. They started collecting. We saw a massive influx of bourbon drinkers, but all chasing down, unicorns in my shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that you guys aren't drinking mezcal?
Ooh.
And is it because of the barrier of entry, or is it because of access? I'm hard pressed to find some mezcal bars here where you can get out of there for under $80, right?
Mm-hmm.
And try a bunch of different mezcals.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want the audience to ask themselves is, why are they not into mezcal?
I love it. Great. Thank you so much, man. This is a really great episode. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you go out and try some mezcal, and definitely stop by Off Premise, located
1128 West Armitage, Lincoln Park.
You heard that.
Thanks for having me.
Peace. Thank you.
Thanks.